Hi everyone, it's Anthony J. Mead here. I'm the author of the New Age Karma Handbook, and in this short video I'm going to talk a little bit more about the book and go through some of the finer points of it in relation to karma. The New Age Karma Handbook was written 2 years ago, and you can buy it through the Amazon website. You can get it as a Kindle book, and you can get it as a paperback. The New Age Karma Handbook is different to a lot of karma books because it deals basically more in terms of your past life, what it meant to you, and how you come back with a lot of the traits that you showed in that previous life. And I will explain how this all works. You can get a free ebook with this video as well. I've explained that towards the end of the video, and you've got two ways to get it. You can either key into a site which I will give you, where you can leave your name and perhaps leave your email, or if you don't want to do that, I've just left my email number at the end of this bid, and you can get into that, and I'll forward you a copy of the book. The New Age Karma Handbook is very different. There are casebook stories that that will exemplify the karma process, but in the New Age Karma Handbook, we really do go into the sort of nitty-gritty of karma. We really study it, and I show some of the things, give examples of how your previous life can influence your present life, and I talk about things that possibly aren't talked about much in other karma books, though I haven't read all of them, so I can't say, but you'll have to let me know this. I talk about things like karma of the bones, which I'll go on to explain a little bit more in a minute, where the way you leave your body, in terms of the way your soul leaves your body, or your corpse if you like, can influence your next life. Also talk about repetition, because karma repeats, and I talk about some of the fallacy that surrounds what goes around comes around, because we do know that, or we can more or less guarantee that does happen, but it's a word that gets bandied around a little bit, and I explain why it's not as straightforward as what it should be. Sit back and enjoy the New Age Karma Handbook. Thank you. What goes around comes around. Not always. Now, you hear this statement all over the country, and you hear it in all different varied situations. People can talk about karma and previous lives and stuff like this, and you hear the statement, what goes around comes around, and you hear it in general life, where people are very upset with someone and they've hurt their feelings or something, or in their eyes they're very bad people, and you get this thrown at you: what goes around comes around. They will get paid back. Well, they will, but it does not always happen in this lifetime. Instant karma as such does not always manifest in this life, and I think in a way the mindset regarding this has to change a little bit. Now, in the New Age Karma Handbook, I have used several illustrations, if you like, to exemplify this point, and one of them that I've used, and I'm going to use now, is a situation surrounding a boss. There's no gender status in this. The boss can be either a man or a woman, it doesn't matter, but we'll suggest in this instance that he's a man. He does not pay you right. He makes you work double what you would have done 40 years ago. In other words, whereas you were doing one job, you get 3 jobs all compressed into one, but you only get the same money for it. Does not pay you for holidays, and refuses to give you a proper lunch break. Now, a proper lunch break is at least an hour, probably no more than an hour, but it is an hour. Very few people get that now. Most of them are doing about half an hour. Not all of them. There are some fantastic bosses out there who really value the staff and will do everything they can to treat them nicely. So this is not me having a go at everybody. You know, I know as well as everyone else that there are some really good people out there running companies and stuff like this. But there's a lot of horror stories out there as well, and some of them have surfaced from time to time, and it just beggars belief. But what do you feel will happen to the boss guy when he or she resorts to behaviour such as this? Nothing. I doubt it. Nothing will happen except they are likely to be more and more successful, expand their business, make tons more money, while you have problems paying for your gas and electric. I mean, it happens. The boss goes from strength to strength and we're struggling on money that we just can't live on. The instant karma doesn't come in when we need it. It can take ages. So the statement, what goes around comes around, should be modified a little bit, and it ought to read, what goes around can come around eventually. It's more realistic to say this. The universe takes time in regard to working this out. The meanie boss might take several lives to get into a situation where he is in a way paying for this, possibly put into a situation where he experiences the hardships of life. But it's not always guaranteed to happen when you want it to, and that's the point I'm making on this slide. So yes, what goes around comes around, definitely, but not always in this lifetime. Karma repeats. This is exactly what it does from one life to the next. It keeps repeating. Now, I'll give some instances here and show you how it works. Say you're a lady, a woman, married to a man in the 1300s who, to be honest, you couldn't stand. Perhaps in a way you had to marry him, or maybe conjure a little bit. Thought you loved him and then found out he was a massive control freak. Beat the living daylights out of him, and they would have done in those times. They were not bothered. You know, women were treated like just chattels. You basically disliked him intensely, but you couldn't get away from him, because in those times you just could not get away from a man unless you ran away. But where are you going to go? You know, you perhaps lived somewhere at least half right for those times. Had food, drink, got some sleep, worked yourself to death, but at least it was a home. So you couldn't just run off. You live 30 years with this man and then he dies. And then maybe a couple of years later, because you're absolutely worn out, you die. Those two people, the man and the woman, 500 years later would come back again. They're duty bound to come back into each other's lives because they ended their time with each other. In a way, the last karmic camera picture of them, if you like, was of being together, even though the man might have died before the lady. It doesn't matter. The last karmic pic was of those two souls existing together. So it will bring them back together. But every life, the karma gets easier, which is pretty straightforward. I mean, life in the 1300s must have been horrific to what it is now. I mean, you had no forms of communication, life was hard, the food was horrible, most people had problems. Nowadays, you know, it's a hell of a lot easier, we all know that. the two come back and the same things happen again. But in a way, what the universe has done in the bigger picture is to create circumstances where the lady does not have to stick the bullying guy. She can get away from him, and society, the universe, whatever way you want to look at it, will support her. Now we know this is true because, I mean, you can divorce someone and a woman can get basically what she wants. I'm not saying she gets everything, and there's no gripe behind this. What I'm saying is, if a man treats you badly and you've been married to him for like 5 or 10 years, you can get him out of the house. You can get him out of the house and you can divorce him. Okay, it might cost you a little bit with lawyers and stuff, but if you're a lady and you've been hammered a little bit by a guy, it's the guy that's going to get chucked out, especially if you've got kids and stuff like this. He's got to go. You'll end up on your own, okay, but the chances are the courts will rule in your favour and at least you'll get something. You compare it to the 1300s and it's paradise. So the karma has got easier and the universe has manifested circumstances for you to deal with the problems that you had in the previous life, but you could not deal with, simply because there was just no way out for you. And this is how it works. Every life getting slightly easier, but the same problems manifesting themselves, but at different junctures, ways of dealing with it and getting off the karmic wheel completely. If you were in this situation and like I say, the guy was horrific in that previous life, he'd been horrific to you, and then you came back in today's life, had about 5 years of it and thought, oh, I had enough of this bloke. That's it, he's gone. You can get off the actual karmic wheel. He can disappear out your life and you can go and meet someone else, and that guy will never come back to you unless you of course want it. But in most instances, that's it. The karma ends. Now, a lot of answers to life's problems between people are not easily solved in this lifetime, because you have to go back into the previous life to find the answers. This is why it becomes complicated, because a lot of people say things like, why am I going through this? Can't understand it. I didn't do anything wrong. I went into this. I was fair. Yeah, of course you were. Don't hammer yourself. Don't kick yourself. There's nothing wrong. You're not a bad person. You're not to blame. It's just that the answers you're looking for do not exist in this time zone. The answer to your problem is not in this life. You have to go back to the previous life to find it. And this is where it becomes complicated, because there's not enough information about karma. Karma basically is like a comic strip. You read a comic and you're getting all involved in it, and then the caption ends, and on the next page there's a continuation of it. Now that's how karma repeats itself, and it does this, by the way, every minute of your life. But what happens, the karma you had in the 1300s is not going to be repeated the same in 2019, simply because the universe, or time if you like, modifies the karma to fit the age. So because we've gone forward, your karma's on the same level, but it reflects differently because the universe or time has modified the karma to fit this particular age. You think about that a bit. It's not rocket science. It's quite easy when you think about it. You're going to do all the same things you did in the 1300s in a sense, but the backdrop, the life itself, is so different. But that's how karma works. It's one segment leading into another, and you're faced with all these problems that you have to conquer. The universe gives you chances. You have to get off the wheel, if you like. It's a difficult exercise. We've all got different problems, and we all come back to try and eradicate those problems, or to solve them in such a way as we don't necessarily get off the wheel completely, but we do go forward. Karma is something we don't always recognize, but it's written on our soul. like a blueprint plan. And even though we have a certain amount of free choice, we have to stick to the main theme of the plan. It's our only way of progressing, going forward. Karma of your bones. Now, of all the slides in this little video, this is probably the most difficult to explain. And I've written in depth about it in the New Age Karma Handbook. I've given a lot of information in the book. I'll try to give you a little bit here and convey it to you in such a way that you can understand. Now look, the most significant aspect of your karma is how you die. Obviously the karma itself is a sum total of your existence. That's definite. You know, I mean, you're judged on your whole performance. But the key element, or one of the key elements, let's say, the most significant element, if you like, is the bit where you leave this life and leading up to it. Now, souls are all different. We know it. I mean, your soul, your inner you, the real you, is different as what people are in terms of how we see them on the surface. You know, we all know that people have got their own ways of thinking, their own idiosyncrasies. We're all different. That's what makes life go around. Souls can leave the body differently. I'll explain it. Some souls leave the body at the point of death quite fast. Maybe like a heart attack or something. One minute you're okay, you're talking to people, yeah, I'm all right, I'm fit and great. And then the next minute, bang, your soul has just left your body like a bullet. You're dead. The kind of death that represents is usually the best one. And you hear people talk about that. They'll say things like, oh, he went nicely. He didn't even know it, went in his sleep. Found him in the chair, his wife found him. Oh, there he was laying like that. You hear it every day, you know, and in a way there's a lot of truth surrounding these kind of like old wives' tales or bits of tittle-tattle gossip and that you hear, because they're telling you in a way the real truth about it. Someone had a heart attack, bang, the soul shot forward like a bullet. That was it, gone. You never come back, not to that body, not to that corpse. Karma's over. Death has intervened. You've left your well-worn body. That's it. Job done. And that is the best way to leave. But there's another way. There's another way that souls leave the corpse, and I'll tell you what it is. They ooze out of it. They struggle in a way. They come out of the body or the corpse slowly. Now, in ancient times, you know, torturing people and putting them on the rack and things like this was a skill. I mean, I can't imagine it being a skill in a way. I don't suppose you can, and in a way I'm a bit disgusted with it, but it was at the time considered something that, you know, if you were good at it, my God, you were put up there. You know, every king and queen of England had a rack master and a torturer, and by golly, they were good at their trade. Now, they knew this, what I'm telling you. They knew that souls either left the body fast or came out quite slowly. And this is my opinion, though it's not really documented. You can see snips of it. My opinion is that they possibly had some sort of knowledge of how to actually get the soul to come out in a fast or slow way. Now, I can't explain this bit. You do see captions of it. I mean, some of you watch some of these period videos. There's one concerning Henry VII. There was a video some time ago. I think it was called In the Shadow of the Tower or something like this. But there's a part in that where what I'm talking about is illustrated, in as much as the torturer talks about the soul being coaxed out of the body. But getting back to what I'm trying to explain to you here. Souls either come out fast or slow. Now, when they come out slowly, there can be problems. Not all the time, some of the time. Because what happens is the soul creeps out the body and gravitates to the bones. Why it does it like this, we don't know. I mean, some people, in a way, are stubborn or fearful or want to stay in their body. I mean, I can't imagine anyone staying in a corpse, but souls are all different, and they're fearful, and sometimes they're stubborn and conditioned. We are all different, even in death. So a soul creeping out of the body isn't good, because whatever happens to that body while the soul is still gravitating to it can affect the future karma. And the best way for me to explain this would be based on what used to happen in medieval times, where they used to hang, draw and quarter you. Now, this was a fearsome punishment, the most disgusting thing that you could ever think of. But people were hung, cut down before they were actually dead, and then quartered. You know, someone would slice them from virtually right down the middle of their body, cut their limbs off, and then the last bit that came off was their head. But the point is, the people were still alive while this was happening. Now, can you imagine how some of those souls would come back to the next reincarnated life? I tell you how they'll come back. Most of them would have gut-related problems of some significance. I'll give you a casebook illustration here that happened to me, or happened around me. I do I Ching readings, and I did one for a woman who, we talked about her karma and we got quite deep into it, and I won't go into all of this, but it was worked out that she'd been hung, drawn and quartered. Now, that was there, and she'd often felt that this was the case. She'd had dreams about it, by the way. There was a lot to this, but I'm only using this as a bit of an illustration. That lady had been hung, drawn and quartered. She'd come back to this life, and the same thing happened, in as much as in the previous karma, she often used to dream that while they were cutting her in half, they'd got masks on, which they invariably did, by the way, because they didn't want you to see them. You know, they were frightened that you, in a way, kind of recognise them. So they used to do all this while they had their faces covered up, or hoods on, or stuff like this. You've seen it all. Now, in this life, she came back and had a major operation which took half of her stomach away, and all the people were covered up because there were surgeons and nurses in capes and gowns. And I said to this woman, look, what's changed? In the 1300s or 1200s or whatever, they put masks on and disemboweled you. In this life, the same things happened. You've gone into a theatre, and doctors, nurses, etc., in gowns and masks have taken half your stomach away. Exactly the same, except obviously it wasn't the same, in as much as in the medieval times there was a penchant to deliver as much pain and hardship as possible, and this life they were trying to save you. But if you look at it as a whole picture, it's basically the same. But getting back to what I'm trying to tell you, gravitate round the bones as a soul, and you bring back, or can bring back, a multitude of problems. Now, I've gone over this in my book. I've given you reasons of why I think people have a lot of problems in some instances. And again, the same thing comes up. Why have I come back like this? You know, I'm not a bad person. Of course you're not. Of course you're not a bad person. There's no explanation. Doctors can't give it to you. They'll just say, well, that's the way it is. You've had all these problems. We've had to do this for you. But the real answer to it lies in that previous life. And this is what I say, karma, if it's developed totally and we put more effort into it than what we do now, it could be a way of solving a lot of people's problems, in as much as we could give people answers, or try to. There's not enough information about it. Karma of your bones. It's a major part of the karma process, and you can read more about it in the New Age Karma Handbook. The New Age Karma Handbook. Innovative, the information groundbreaking and enlightening. Here are the chapters. What is karma? How does karma work? Repetition and serialization, featuring modification through time. Circumstances and karma, karma of your bones. The night's karma, part 1. Death, how it influences karma. The night's karma, part 2. Love karma. Love karma, soul connections. The night's karma, part 3. Combination karmic process. Suicide and karma. Why do souls reincarnate? Karma, getting off the wheel. People, finance, love, dimensional soulmates, emotions and traits. Karma and fear. Una, ray of the moon. Karma in your name. Word game rules. Word game rules for the alphabetical system. Can you know your own karma? The perfect karma. The story of Rubin Mind, part 1. The perfect karma. The story of Rubin Mind, part 2. Finale. The New Age Karma Handbook. It's available from Amazon Books in paperback format and Kindle. The site address is there, look, if you would like to key into it and have a look for yourselves. There is a free ebook on offer with this video, The Basic Rudiments of Karma. Now, you can key into a site that I've put there, look, give me the address there. You can key into that if you want, leave your details. But if you'd rather speak to me direct, you can go into my email and leave me a mail, and I will get back to you and forward a copy of the book on to you. I mean, some people don't like keying into sites because they don't like leaving their details and stuff like that. Well, I understand that fully. So you can take advantage of the two methods, whatever suits you best. I'm Anthony J. Mead. I'm the author of the New Age Karma Handbook. Thank you for watching this video.